Hello and welcome everyone. The most awaited Marvel movie since Avengers Endgame is here. And after a mostly average year for the MCU fans, Spider-Man No Way Home is a return back to full form for the franchise. Director Jon Watts wasn't kidding when he said Tom Holland's third outing as Peter Parker would be Spider-Man's Endgame. So, we are here with spoilers review, so yeah, there is your spoilers alert. So before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe, and with that out of the way, let's get started with the video. Spider-Man No Way Home's action kicks off right where the last film Spider-Man Far From Home ended 2 years earlier. Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio framed Peter Parker for his murder and revealed his identity to the world as Peter Parker. What follows next is a first act that feels somewhat familiar to the previous Spider-Man films. Despite Peter's difficulties, we're into relatively lighthearted territory early on in the movie with lots of good laughs. And as had been speculated, Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock does actually show up in a cameo scene as Peter's lawyer, and not only that, he accidentally shows up his Daredevil reflexes, which will no doubt play a bigger role in the MCU going forward. Struggling with his newfound celebrity, Spider-Man heads to 177 Bleecker Street to seek help from Doctor Strange in the Sanctum Sanctorum. Here we learn that Wong is actually the Sorcerer Supreme, since Doctor Strange had been blipped for 5 years after Thanos' snap in Avengers Infinity War. So to be honest, we didn't see that twist coming. That said, comic moments and scenes like this are a pure delight before the second act's geeky weirdness gets going, which is full of Easter eggs for the most devoted fans. As seen in the trailers, Doctor Strange casts a spell to make the world forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. However, it goes wrong thanks to Peter interfering last minute, which basically causes his nearest and dearest not to forget him. As a result, Spider-Man villains from across the multiverse, who knew a variant Peter Parker as the Web Slinger, are transported to the MCU moments before their deaths. This is where it gets complicated. Unless you've seen the 5 non-MCU Spider-Man movies, 3 starring Tobey and 2 with Andrew Garfield. These 5 villains are one apiece from each of the 5 Sony movies, with memories of what happened in those films. Like Avengers Endgame, this is a sheer delight for comic book movie fans, but may go over the casual viewer's head. As a result, Spider-Man No Way Home is really a 5-star film for Marvel devotees, but certainly a 4 for audiences members who are just casual fans looking to enjoy a solo movie. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin and Alfred Molina's Doc Ock are front and center, a welcome return for the villains, who couldn't have been played so perfectly by anyone else. All the villains get their moments, with Jamie Foxx's Electro, Thomas Haddon's Sandman, and Rhys Ifans' Lizard being somewhat rebooted and redeemed from their not-so-fondly remembered Spider-Man movies. After capturing all 5, Peter embodies the virtue of loving one's enemies, defying Doctor Strange, who wanted to send them all back to meet their fates as they did in their original Sony movies. Instead, we witness surreal montage scenes of the villains joining Spider-Man and May at their new apartment to work on redeeming them from what turned them evil in the first place. When asked why he would help them, Zendaya's MJ highlights the essence of Peter's heroism, because that's who he is. Tragically, Spider-Man's empathy backfires, with Green Goblin once again overtaking Norman Osborn's psyche, with the other villains following likewise. In the ensuing battle, Goblin kills Aunt May in a desperately sad scene, as she echoes Uncle Ben's words in her final moments: "With great power comes great responsibility." Having lost his parents, aunt, uncle, Tony Stark, and false mentor Mysterio, perhaps this death was a tad too much for Peter. Hasn't he suffered enough? But being Spider-Man's Endgame, No Way Home had to raise its stakes to devastating heights, which are felt aplenty. After much laughter, tears, and action in the first 2 acts, there would only be more to come, including huge surprises in the final third. Since the release of the animated movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, fans have been calling on Sony to make a live-action multiverse movie with Tobey, Garfield, and Holland. Well, that wish has been granted. After months of rumors, the first 2 actors to play Spider-Man returned to offer their help. The 2 original Sony Web Slingers are just as charming as ever, with all 3 getting on so sweetly as though the closest of brothers. The trio of actors provides lots of smiles but also poignant moments of loss, sharing with each other their terrible sufferings. The 3 Spider-Men head to the Statue of Liberty to fight the 5 villains together in a spectacular battle, the most thrilling and satisfying since Avengers Endgame, full of nods to the non-MCU Spider-Man movies. It's hard to believe that after their victory and sending them all back to their different universes, that this will be the last we see of Maguire and Garfield's Peter Parker variants. In the meantime, Saving the world this time around meant everyone had to forget who Peter was, including MJ and Ned. Nevertheless, this is a satisfying, if bittersweet, sacrifice for the superhero, who no doubt will work things out in his inevitable second MCU trilogy. Fans should also stick around for a mid-credits scene with Tom Hardy's Venom and the first Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness trailer, which is insane. But all in all, Spider-Man No Way Home offers a spectacular end to the first Spider-Man Marvel trilogy. The MCU hasn't been this good in over 2 years, so here's hoping this standard is maintained or even surpassed going forwards. Avengers 5 Secret Wars with the 3 Peter Parker variants, you say? Yes please, we will love that. So let us know if there is something else you wanted to see in the movie. And with that, we will bring this video to an end. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.